Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Majors and Quinn YouTube channel. My name is Annie, and I am the events coordinator at Majors and Quinn Booksellers, which, if you are not familiar with us, is an independent bookstore based in Minneapolis, Minnesota. If it's your first virtual event with us, welcome. If it's not, welcome back. We've really enjoyed bringing virtual author events to you over the past year or two, and we're so excited to have a local author's book debut here for you tonight. So I am going to quickly introduce our two speakers, and then they will have a wonderful conversation about the brand new thriller, Nice Girls.
Oh, wait, yeah. I have my own copy.
There we go. Yay. So yeah, and if you are interested in purchasing a signed copy of Nice Girls, I am going to put the phone number for Majors and Quinn into the chat. Just give us a call. We're actually open until 10 p.m. Central Time every night, so you can quite literally call us up right after this event, and a bookseller will help you out. We have pickup or shipping, so whether you're watching locally from here in the Twin Cities area or from afar, we can get you a signed copy of Catherine's book. So I'm going to introduce our two speakers this evening. Catherine Dang is a former legal assistant based in Minneapolis, Minnesota. She's a graduate of the University of Minnesota, and Nice Girls is her first novel. Yay. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
And our special guest tonight is Abby Endler, the creator of Crime by the Book, a crime fiction review website and Instagram account. By day, she's a publicist for a division of Penguin Random House, and we're so happy to have you here, Abby.
Thank you so much for letting me join in. I'm so excited for this conversation.
Oh, and I should mention also that we will have time for audience Q&A at the end of the hour. So if you are watching, when you're watching on YouTube at any point, if you want to log in and join the live chat, please do so. Let us know where you're watching from. Ask your questions at any time, and I'll be back at the end of the show to go through questions. Have fun, YouTube.
Thank you
so much.
Catherine, it is so nice to meet you. I'm so excited to chat with you this evening. I loved your debut book so much. It's incredible. And I thought first, before we get into anything, would you, in your own words, tell us a little bit about what Nice Girls is all about?
Sure. So Nice Girls follows a 22-year-old Cornell University student named Mary. In her senior year of college, she is suddenly expelled because of some incident that she doesn't really talk about. She ends up coming back home to Minnesota, to the suburban town of Liberty Lake. And there she's kind of stuck, I guess, licking her wounds. She ends up working at a grocery store. And while she's at home, she finds out that a local Instagram celebrity, Olivia Willand, has gone missing. And there is a shared history between Mary and Olivia. They used to be friends in childhood. It's a bit toxic. Mary doesn't have like the best feelings towards Olivia. But despite all this, she gets very drawn into the missing persons case. And things get very violent and dark very quickly.
They sure do, and it's something I love about this book so much. This is a dark story in the best possible way. Can you identify a moment that kind of sparked the inspiration for this story?
It's so weird. It came from a really good place. Like, I had just graduated from college in 2017. I felt like I was on top of the world. I was super proud of everything I'd done. But I guess as an author, like, I always think about like, oh, what if things had turned out really bad? What if you had, made it to the Ivy League school of your dream, and then senior year, like, you're like this close to making it, and then you lose it all. So I was really like interested in playing with this idea of failure and loss. And then the other part of my brain was like, what if an Instagram influencer just went missing? Which honestly, I feel like it's happening right now too.
I was about to say.
Yeah, I think it's Gabby Petito.
Gabby Petito, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is such a like heartbreaking story, absolutely.
Yeah. So it's one thing to like write about it, but then to hear like a real life missing persons case, like I feel like these things are bound to happen, but it's it's very strange and
Yeah, the
little,
timing is super uncanny as well.
Yeah,
because
I
there's
didn't time it. I
literally-
didn't do anything. I want her to be found safe and sound. This
I
was not
know.
planned on my part.
Absolutely. And I have so many questions for you about kind of true crime and how that plays into your book. But before we get to that part of the discussion, I want to talk a little bit about the title of the book, Nice Girls, because I feel like for all the books that I've read lately, your book has one of the most simple and perfect titles that just fits the story so beautifully. And I would love if you could share with us, why was Nice Girls the right title for this book? And what was it about that theme or that topic that you kind of wanted to explore in this story?
I'm not sure how much I can say about it because it's like the magic, but like the mechanics behind the magic. But it originally had like a different title, but we needed to like change it to make it more, I guess, marketable or whatever. I never meant to write a book about like nice girls being not so nice, but it was my agent who actually came up with the title, and it seemed like such a good fit. Like, I think a big part of the story is Mary has tried so hard to like fit this standard of being like a straight A student, very perfect, proving people wrong. But she has a very like dark, snarky, kind of like bitter personality. And I guess it also ties into, I guess it's like a trope or like a joke about like, oh, when women go missing and people interview about the missing women, they're always described as like, yeah, she was a nice girl. She was so quiet. She lit up every room that she was in. Like, it's the same common spiel over and over again. So I like to think it's kind of like a little bit of a take on that too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's how my experience, that resonates a lot with my experience reading the book. And I have to tell you how much I loved the character of Mary. I feel like, as I like have kind of grown up as a thriller reader, I find myself gravitating towards these characters, these female characters who are, I'm going to say, quote unquote, unlikable. And I feel like that's what you give us with Mary. She has this deep well of anger inside of her and a ton of other qualities that, like I was saying to you before we went live here, I related to a lot about Mary. And I wondered if you could speak a little bit to, why it was important to you to write a protagonist who is so like messy. Why was it important to you to give her that space to explore these like dark facets of who she is?
I don't know what it is about like thrillers and like mysteries, but I feel like there's a lot of room for, I guess, character exploration, especially with like women. Everyone talks about like Amy Dunn from Gone Girl, which I think she was probably the one that like inspired a lot of women to just come forward and just talk about just these really deeply unpleasant, I guess like unfeminine feelings and thoughts. So I really wanted to dig deep into that. But I don't know. I think I'm very used to like the stereotype of like the nerd who makes it. Like he becomes this celebrity. He becomes a millionaire. He gets a hot wife. He succeeds like that. And I just wanted to do kind of like the female version of that trope, but like the other direction. So like a female character who had like kind of proved herself to a bunch of people and then ended up losing that. So I'm glad you liked her. I feel like a lot of people like are kind of mixed, like, oh, I didn't like her.
Oh my gosh.
Like, well, you weren't supposed to like her that much.
No, and that's the thing. But like, I felt like she is in a lot of ways this very pure reflection of these things that I think a lot of us grapple with, perfectionism and fear of failure and what happens when you've worked so hard for a goal and things really do just fall apart, and I love that we got to get up close and personal with just how dark she goes. And, so I obviously related to a lot about Mary. And I think that sometimes readers maybe assume that authors are kind of pouring so much of themselves into their protagonists. And I was curious, how much of yourself do you see in Mary?
I'm not as bitter or as I guess like aggressive. Or as like she really puts herself into like some very strange situations. And I am just like, I'm just gonna stay in the background. I'm not gonna get involved. But I was a bit of a chubby kid when I was younger, and I was not much of a looker. And those were just the rough years.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I feel like everyone loves this idea of like the what is it, like the ugly duckling who becomes a swan. Yeah, and then there's this kind of like halo effect of how, oh, this person who was chubby and then they turned thin and perfect and hot, they must still be a good person on the inside. You know, they must understand. I just wanted to write someone that was kind of bitter, like changing your looks, being successful on the outside. It doesn't necessarily change who you are on the inside.
Yeah.
But I will say, there's a scene where it's like a childhood scene where she gets like punched. I was punched in Catholic school on a bus.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And I even like at age 8 or 9, I was like, I'm literally gonna write about this one day. I'm gonna put it in a book. And I still remember. That's like one scene that was like actually like from life.
Wow, what a terrible thing to have happen to you, but I'm glad you were able to use it for something down the road.
Honestly, yeah, I think it's like a coping mechanism, just to know, like, you know, this sucks, but it's going to be a good story one day. Definitely. Either to tell the people or just to write it down.
Absolutely. And now I was reading an interview with you where you talked about how you love coming of age stories. And I wondered if you could speak a little bit to, you know, the period in Mary's life in which you decided to set the book. I mean, it's a really pivotal time, you know, your early 20s, getting out of college, figuring out your life. What interested you about that stage of life in particular enough that you wanted to center your story around it?
That's a really good question. I guess with the fiction that I read, I guess a lot of it is like very like two extremes. Like I think a lot of suspense thrillers are about like marriage, and this is like a very like middle-aged life experience that's like kind of ahead of where I'm at personally.
Yeah.
And I read a lot of teenage stuff when I was a teenager myself, even when I was a kid. But I feel like there's something so special about being in your like early 20s, especially like college times. I knew a girl who talked about her idea of like a second puberty. And I always kind of had this idea that like, yeah, there's something about very early adulthood, like between 18 to 22, where you just feel like you have so much pressure on yourself. And you know in your head that like technically you're an adult, you might be able to drink, do drugs, do a lot of stuff. So you have this idea that you should know, well, that you should have your shit together, I guess.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of pressure there. And I feel like, being in your early 20s, it's almost like being a teenager where like every single event, it feels so momentous and it feels so heavy. Yeah. So I wanted to just capture this like very like, I guess like particular time where someone would have so much pressure on themselves to succeed and not come back home.
Yeah, I loved that you chose that time period because I know like I'm in my late 20s now. I would not want to relive my early 20s. It is such a time.
Oh.
It's the perfect pressure cooker, you know, for all that Mary's going through. It's just the perfect kind of external force that really amplifies all of her internal struggles. And so there are so many layers in this book. Readers obviously will quickly discover this is, you know, very much centered on Mary's inner life in a lot of ways, but there's also an amazing missing persons mystery that you weave into the story as well. And I wondered if you could speak a little bit to, you know, the character that you chose to have disappear. You alluded to this earlier. She's a social media influencer. First and foremost, I mean, why a social media influencer as your person who goes missing?
I don't know. I feel like, well, I'm in my like mid 20s. I'm literally just like a couple of years younger than you, but I feel like we grew up in like the I wouldn't say sweet spot, but like this time where we moved from like AIM to like Facebook. You do? Oh my God. It takes me back to middle school. Like every time I watch Pen 15 and I see them like typing on AIM, I'm just like, oh, I did that. I
miss it.
I switch it out for emojis instead of like the LOLs and LOLs and stuff. But Yeah, no, we were like we grew up in this age where like social media has kind of like crept into our lives and dominated like so much of it.
Yeah.
And I've always just wondered about like what's it like to be a social media person? Like how much stress must you be under to look a certain way, to have I guess like a certain life on the app. And I guess I've always been interested in what would happen if this person went missing, just because I feel like a lot of true crime also deals with like the media and the media attention. And I feel like with social media, all of that is just so amplified.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I was just really, I like playing with like what ifs, like what if this were to happen? How would it be? What would it feel like?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. And I think that you set up a really interesting, I'm going to say, ethical question for us to think about, because the character who goes missing is obviously an affluent white woman who has this huge social media presence. And as I'm not going to say too much because no spoilers, but as our protagonist kind of digs into the mystery, she begins to uncover this real disparity in how the media is covering this this missing person, with other women who've gone missing in the community who are of different backgrounds and races. And I wondered if you could speak a little bit to what you were hoping to explore there. What made you want to explore that angle in this book?
I think as someone who has consumed a lot of like true crime stuff since I was like 7 or 8, it's hard not to notice that like the biggest high profile cases in the media, they tend to involve like these very pretty I guess like middle class white women, and their cases do deserve attention, but then you start to wonder like what about all the other missing people out there. And I just wanted to play around with that, just because I wouldn't know what it would be like to lose someone and to know that the media is not covering that person. They're covering someone else. I think it would be super painful. And I mean, there's a lot of biases at play. And I think there's a term for it called like missing white woman syndrome in the media. I think Facebook is a little bit better. Like I see more missing people like appear in people's feeds. But in terms of like mainstream, like CNN, ABC, like those news channels, it's always just a beautiful white woman who gets the attention.
Yeah, absolutely. And now readers, again, this is Mary's story. This is, she's the focal point, but there's such an amazing cast of characters. So you kind of weave in and out of the story here. And I was curious, while you were writing, was there kind of a secondary character who, you became particularly attached to or interested in, who you could share with us?
There's a character that I genuinely love, Jaden. I think he represents the kind of like rough around the edges but well-meaning kind of character. Like if you've seen the movie Seven, it was like Brad Pitt's character in that one. Like the heart's in the right place, just the means of getting things done. Not always the best. But I think in Jaden, he's a character that I have some sort of qualities that I wish I had. He's very outspoken. He's not afraid to make people uncomfortable. In conversation. Whereas like me, I'm just like, I just want to keep the peace. Let's be diplomatic. But no, he was super fun to write.
Yeah, that's amazing. And now you've alluded to, true crime, and there is definitely I think a true crime influence on this story, even though it is obviously fiction. And, I'm always fascinated when we hear these stories in the real world about ordinary people like me and you who just become obsessed with a particular case, and they can end up like actually helping to solve it. And I think it's so fascinating. And that's kind of that's kind of parallel to Mary's kind of character arc in this story. I'm not going to say whether or not she actually ends up solving it, but she sure does become very embroiled in the mystery. And I guess my first question in the kind of true crime realm is, are you a true crime addict yourself? Is this like a form of entertainment that you personally love?
Oh God, it's so weird because honestly, yes, I do like true crime, and I think it's more mainstream now.
Yeah.
There's like jokes about how like if you go to a girl's brunch, all they talk about is like true crime, horoscopes, and crystals. And I hate that part of it is true for me personally. 2 out of the 3 is personal.
I love it.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't know why women are so into it. I feel like wait, what was the question? I'm so sorry.
Just if you're like into it yourself, you know, if that was kind of an influence for you while you're writing.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I grew up watching a lot of like 50/50 with, no, 2020. Sorry, 2020. That was the ABC, like ABC's version of Dateline, NBC. Yeah. I watched some Cops as a kid. I don't know why. I watched America's Most Wanted, Law and Order SVU.
Amazing.
It's looking back, I'm just like, was it the best thing to watch as a kid? It's a little questionable, but yeah, I don't know why. I think it's so fascinating just to hear about, I guess, the extremes of human behavior.
Yeah.
With all these, like, all the criminals and perpetrators in these missing persons cases. I think part of us as people, we just want to know, like, why did this person do that? What made them so inhumane as to, you know, hurt someone else?
Yeah.
And I guess a part of me also wonders, like, as women, do we like to, like, read and watch this stuff to, like, prepare ourselves, to, like, teach us, like, I'm not going to walk home alone by myself. I'm going to look under the car.
Yeah. I don't know. I wish I knew the answer to that. I'm sure someone has done some sort of study about that out there, because it does seem like there are so many women who are so fascinated by this stuff. And I don't know, what the answer is, but I mean, I know I've been fascinated by true crime for so long. I think I terrified my parents growing up because I had like a collection of true crime books that I was like constantly reading.
Wow. Oh my God.
Yeah, but you know, something that I feel like is always in the back of my mind when I'm like consuming true crime is kind of what we hinted at earlier. You know, we're right now witnessing this case playing out in real time where an influencer has gone missing. And you know, it's always in the back of my mind when I'm like listening to a podcast or watching a documentary and I'm deriving so much entertainment value from it. But it's like, that's someone's real story. That's their real life. And I was curious if that was, you know, in the back of your mind at all while you were writing. Obviously this is a novel, it's fiction, but it does seem to have some parallels to, you know, the true crime world. I mean, is that something that's ever in your mind, like either when you were writing this book or when you're watching a true crime documentary or anything like that?
Yeah. I guess it's like an ethical dilemma.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't say, I don't know if I enjoy true crime as much as I'm like fascinated by it.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's something very uncanny about witnessing a true crime story like in real time.
Yeah.
Even with the current like Gabby Petito case, I looked on her Instagram because I was like, wow, this is kind of the same thing as what happened in the book. I wonder what people are doing. And people are like already like trailing and like combing through her posts. And they're like, this is the last post that she actually like wrote the caption in. Like the other ones are just what her fiance wrote after he like killed her. And I understand that people are very they're very invested in the case. They care. I think there's this human instinct of wanting to help and wanting to be the person that like, haha, I solved the case, I got justice for this girl. And it sounds great in fiction. I think there's a little bit of this like vigilante type thing with Mary's obsession with Olivia's case. But I guess in real life, I just kind of wonder, like, are we helping or like hindering these cases? Because so much of public opinion is like being swayed by just other people.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and it is like kind of like you're saying. I mean, I was looking at her Instagram earlier today, at Gabby's Instagram, and it is like shocking when you see, you know, total strangers from the internet are picking apart everything. And, you know, I don't know, there are really some very uncanny parallels to the novel that you've
written. Which was not planned.
No, oh my gosh, no, not at all. It's just, Yeah, it's really fascinating. And I mean, I have to ask, you've recommended a few, TV shows you've liked, like 2020. Are there any true crime podcasts that you personally listen to? Because I know people are always looking for a good true crime podcast recommendation.
I mean, there's My Favorite Murder,
Yep.
which is like the top of the chain. I'm a huge murderino. They're really great to like listen to when you're doing the dishes.
Absolutely.
I don't know why it's soothing to me.
I don't know why either. I'm a big Morbid fan. I've been listening to a lot of Morbid lately. Highly recommend that one for your dishwashing entertainment needs, definitely.
Yeah, I'll look into that. I also watch like, I guess it's like podcasts, but on like YouTube, like visual podcasts.
Yeah.
There's this one series called like, is it JCS Psychology or something? There's a YouTuber who like, he gets this public footage of like these killers getting interviewed by the police before they get caught, and then he like kind of psychoanalyzes what they do.
Yeah.
And so you get to watch someone try to pretend that they're crazy in real time.
Wow.
It's crazy. It's strange. It's super popular on the internet. But yeah, true crime is exploding everywhere. I know there's like streamers that stream true crime.
It's everywhere. It really is. And, I think that like something about the satisfaction that comes from reading a book like this is the same as what you just mentioned, where it's like you're unpacking, the psychology behind why people do what they do. You're kind of moving from this chaotic state of not knowing what happened to hopefully finding justice in the end. And I was really interested in Nice Girls, in the kind of ecosystem that you create in which all of this plays out. You've got this fictional town called Liberty Lake, and I wondered if you could speak a little bit to what inspired it. What were you modeling it after?
I guess like based off of like two things. I am from Minnesota, and we're known as the state of like 10,000 lakes. We actually have more than that apparently.
Wow.
And I have no idea what constitutes a lake from a pond.
Yeah.
Or like a blob of water. I don't know, but we have over 10,000 lakes. So I wanted to incorporate that into the book. But like in real life, the cities of Lakeville, Lake Township, Lake Town, Lake City, they're all taken in Minnesota. And I didn't want to get into any trouble. I didn't want to like, I don't know, like spit on someone's city.
Right.
So I just made up a very all-American kind of place, and there's nothing more American than liberty. So that's how like the name Liberty Lake came to be. In terms of like the city, for readers who haven't read the book, it's like this very sprawling suburbs. There's this very affluent area, and then there's this more like working class, like I guess more impoverished area.
Yeah.
And I think I based it off of my like hometown. I'm from like the North Metro area, like suburbs of like Minneapolis, and up here it's extremely diverse. The neighborhoods are very sprawling, but there's a lot of disparities in terms of like economic status. Like you could just cross one intersection and you go from this like very working class area to a like more middle class place, and then like the nicest part of the city is always it's like furthest away.
Yeah.
And I don't know, that's like the place that I grew up in. And I always wanted to just see that reflected in the stories I'd read, because I feel like suburban America is always put as this very white, middle class type of environment. And I wanted to just show that it can be very diverse.
Yeah.
And it can also lead to a lot of issues and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think, within this world of Liberty Lake, you have obviously an incredible, intricate story that builds to an amazing cinematic conclusion. Like, I seriously hope we get to see this book on the big screen or on the TV someday, because the final showdown in this book is incredible. We're not going to spoil anything, but I was curious, when you set out to write this book, did you have the book's ultimate reveal and finale in mind, or was that something that kind of developed as you were writing?
I think I had most of like the ending kind of figured out as soon as I started writing it. It was just something I wanted to see. I wanted to write a scene that really has a lot of Minnesotan elements into it, mainly like the outdoors, the weather. Because I love Minnesota, but she can be a very harsh state. She's brutal to everyone in terms of like weather, and I just wanted to put that into a book. And when I write my stories, I do tend to view them through like a cinematic lens. And I guess for me, it was something that I really wanted to see on screen. But yeah, I kind of knew it going in.
That's awesome. I loved it so much. It's so satisfying, and it would make for the perfect like on-screen showdown. I loved it so much.
Thank you. I love it too.
It's so good. And I mean, I had a hard time believing this was your debut novel because it's fantastic. It's really outstanding. One of my favorite books that I got to read this summer. And I would love to know, I mean, could you tell us a little bit about what the process was like for you, you know, finding an agent, finding a publisher? How did this whole process play out for you?
Because I don't know how to like answer this like properly, because I feel like some authors have like been working for like decades before they got published, and they have like these very like gritty stories that I think deserve to be heard more often. But for me, the process was kind of, I mean, it felt long, but I suppose it wasn't that long. I started writing Nice Girls like in August of 2017. So that was like a couple months after I had graduated from college. I really wanted to write a book. I kind of figured that like, if I don't try to write a book now when I'm unemployed, just chilling, having a good time, then I'll never do it. Because I was afraid, like, what if I have a career or like a family or like all these like life getting in the way? So I was very focused on like completing a book. I completed it in, I want to say like the fall or winter of 2018. And while I was writing the book, I also was balancing this like really awful law job. I hated it. This is not to hate on lawyers or anything. It was just the place that I worked at was terrible. But I think it really encouraged me to keep writing. Even when I came home from work exhausted, I was like, I got to finish this book. I got to work on it. And then I think 6 months after that, I sent out like, I think 20 query letters. And then I think after getting rejected from one person that I thought like she seemed like a newer agent, I was like a newer writer. I was like, we could start something together. I was thinking like, if anyone's gonna give me a chance, it's her. And then she like flat out rejected me. I got so like, I guess frustrated that I was like, you know what? I'm gonna aim for the biggest agency that I can see. On this list. And then someone pulled me out of the slush pile there. They referred me to the woman who would become my actual agent. And it's crazy. It's really crazy.
That's incredible. I mean, it's so well deserved. It really is. Your book is outstanding. And I'm laughing about your law job because I started Crime by the Book when I was working at a law book publishing company. And so I'm like, I relate to the whole law-related job and needing to have a creative outlet of some sort. So I'm like laughing about that.
Oh my gosh. Wait, you're a kindred spirit. I love this. I
totally get it.
Law is like weirdly, I don't know why it's so taxing on so many people.
I know, it really is though. And it's funny because I don't know if this was the case for you, but I know for me, like a lifelong love of crime fiction and true crime kind of had me thinking I wanted to go into the legal field. And it turns out I really just like the books.
Same. I like reading and like watching about law. But like I have no desire to like work in the field. I think that it takes a certain kind of personality.
It does.
That I just don't have.
Me either. Now, given that this is your first novel, I was curious, I mean, what was the most surprising part of the publication process for you? Was there anything that just really took you by surprise?
I think the length. Like everyone says like, oh, publishing is pretty slow. No offense to anyone who like actually works in publishing. It's just how the schedule works. And like I read so many like author interviews where they talked about like, oh, the waiting sucks. And then like I was in the middle of the waiting period for like almost 2 years. And I felt it. I was like, this does actually suck. I hate this. I wish things would go faster. And then when it's actually time for things to start happening, it happens really quick, like almost too fast.
Yeah.
So I guess, yeah, the pace of publishing, very slow and then very fast.
Absolutely. And I can attest to that because I work in publishing for my day job. So you're 100% right. I can co-sign all of that. Now, I want to remind everyone watching, if you have any questions for Catherine, please feel free to pop them into the chat. We will answer any and all audience questions that come in. But Catherine, I would love to know if you have any advice that you could share for any aspiring writers who might be out there.
I mean, I guess the basic advice is just like write. Like there's no better time. Like you're never gonna have that perfect burst of inspiration that carries you through a whole book. I think for me, like 10% of the process of writing a book is like, yeah, like I'm in the zone. This feels amazing. This is what I wanted. This is perfection. It's great. But like most of the other time, it's like, do I even know what I'm writing? Like, what are words?
Yeah.
But yeah, just write. Even if it sucks, just keep going. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, it's not like beautiful, like fun, like you can do it, but literally just like write.
But it's practical, I would say. And that is sometimes the most valuable advice. And, because I'm not a writer whatsoever, I am a reader. But I'm always fascinated to hear about writers' process in terms of, how they actually structure the book, how they envision it. When you kind of first had the concept for Nice Girls in your head, I mean, what were the next steps you took? Did you kind of work from an outline? Are you someone who just sat down and wrote? How did that work for you?
I think it was a mix. I tried writing, like chronologically, I think for most of the book, but there were times where I would just get stuck. Yeah. Like I don't know how to get to the next part. So then I would sit down and I guess I had this online, I guess, murder board or whatever of a list of events and who did what and why and how do I get from here to here. And I also made sure this chapter, we had a few chapters about this thing. We're going to switch to this thing. So it's a mix of both. And if I was really having a bad day, I would literally just start writing a scene that I actually wanted to write.
Yeah. Yeah.
The ending stuff. I loved writing that. And I think I just skipped over some of the boring middle parts sometimes.
Yeah. Well, whatever you did, it worked beautifully because the middle parts were not boring for the reader whatsoever. So you did a beautiful job with all of it. Now, I know I'm always so interested to learn crime writers, suspense writers. I love to kind of find out what people enjoy reading when they're not writing. So I wondered if you could tell us a little bit about, what kinds of books you gravitate towards in your free time. And if you could share with us a few books, suspense or other genres that you've recently enjoyed.
I guess I'm kind of weird in the sense that when I read a suspense novel, it just makes me want to start working, and it's oh my god, I need to not think about work.
Yeah.
So I guess for me, I read whatever seems interesting. I recently finished Circe by Madeline Miller.
Yeah.
I've always had kind of a distant interest with Greek mythology. But it was so beautiful. I loved it. I loved the whole entire thing. I think with my writing, I'm very much about the prose, and I want to challenge myself in terms of just the writing style. But I have been reading. I think it's Karen Hamilton's her next novel, The Ex-Husband. It's a cruise line traveling type thriller suspense story. It feels like it exists in a world without COVID, where you can just travel from island to island without worrying about anything.
It's a dream.
That's also been a really good distraction.
Yeah, absolutely. And now I think I have one last question for you, and I think we're going to turn it over to audience questions here. But I would love to know, I mean, what are you most excited about now that Nice Girls is out in the world?
I guess there's this kind of like pre-publication jitters where you're just like sitting there and you're like, I have no idea what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Oh, what if everyone hates it? What if no one talks about the book? There's like all these like very valid concerns, but I think with like in being a writer, like your brain magnifies it. So you're like, oh my God, nothing's going to happen with my book, or too many things are going to happen with my book. It's like you're just sitting there like spiraling in your own thoughts. But I'm very happy that the book is out there. I love seeing it in stores. It feels good, and I'm happy to be like past that like jittery phase.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, with my work hat on as a publicist, I know that phase can be so challenging for writers, and you should just be so proud of yourself because this book is amazing. And I'm, again, so impressed that this is your debut, and I know you're going to have an incredible career ahead of you, and I can't wait to read whatever you write next. And thank you so much for letting me chat with you this evening. This was so much fun, and I want to invite Annie to come back on screen here, and I see we have some audience questions that we will ask.
Yes, thank you so much, Abby.
Thank you so much. I love this interview.
You're more than welcome.
Yeah. Oh, and you're not going anywhere. We've still got some questions to answer here. So here's one from Brittany. I hate to ask, but I have to know. Kat, what are you working on next? And then there's a second part to this question.
So I think I'm moving a little bit more into the horror genre.
Tell me more. Okay.
I wanted to do like a very family, intergenerational coming of age story, but it's moving in like a very more like horror direction than like thriller. Which I'm like super excited to explore. Yeah, but that's just I'm hoping the vibes are like bloody but wholesome. Like that's what I'm trying to go for with this next book.
Bloody but wholesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, sign me up because that sounds incredible.
Fantastic.
Great.
And then another question from Brittany is, Abby, would you ever write a book?
You know, I don't think I have it in me, honestly. I have the utmost respect for writers. I think that I'm just a reader. I kind of have this pipe dream of someday writing like, you know, a classic like locked room kind of puzzle, just simply to see if I could actually like make the puzzle work, you know, with literally no aspiration of getting it published, just to see if I could do it. But I really think that I'm a reader, not a writer.
I feel kind of seen by that, Abby, because as a bookseller, people are always like, "Oh, so you are a writer?" And I'm like, "No."
Like I honestly, never had the aspiration to be a writer. I feel like I'm a reader, and I love to spread the word about great books online as much as I can.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so now we have a question from Samantha. If Mary, character of Nice Girls, were to get drinks with two other characters from another book, show, movie, whatever, who would they be and why? Wow.
Oh my God. Wow. I love this question, Samantha. But wow, that's a doozy. I don't know. Mary's so dark as a person. I feel like she would need to hang out with someone more chill. I don't know. I like putting like different personalities together and seeing what happens. I think she would need to hang out with Kelso and Fez from that 70s show. So I don't know why. I think she represents this very like perfectionist type A college go-getter type person who's very ambitious. And I think it makes you very wound up as a person. And I think she needs to hang out with two very chill people like Fez and Kelso. They have their means of chilling out. I think she should partake in that means of chilling out. I think they should sit in the circle together and have a good time. Literally, that's the answer in my head.
That's incredible.
Amazing. I mean, in the book, she talks about how like she likes going out. Like, you know, she misses going out in college. She has all these like thoughts where she's like, if I was still at school, I'd be doing this, like getting ready for these parties. So she's like, she'd be down.
Yeah, she needs a taste of that again.
Yeah, she really does. That's amazing.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. All right. Yeah. If you have a question and you're out there in the audience, let us know.
Can I ask a question
Abby,
in the meantime? We'll give folks another minute.
Yes.
Okay. So your new book leans into the horror space. Does this mean that you are a horror movie fan as well? Because we're going to be best friends if you're a horror movie fan as well. I feel like we have so much in common already.
We could be best friends, but I'll be the annoying one that can't actually watch the movie. Like, I'm one of those people that I wish I could watch horror films. They sound so interesting, but I get very anxious. I get very scared very easily. I'm very jumpy. Like, I think I was watching Harry Potter like a decade ago in the theater, and it wasn't even a scary scene. He was just like disapparating, you know? There was just a loud whooshing sound. It made me jump in my seat. And I was like, I can't be in a theater. Like, loud noises scare me. Gore scares me. Everything scares me, but I don't know. I like reading about it.
Yeah.
Because I feel safer that way.
Do you think it's like a cathartic thing that you're writing about scary stuff too?
Probably. Yeah. That's a good way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Wait, what kind of horror films are you like into? I feel like everyone has like a certain kind of trope or genre that they like.
My thing is like, don't judge me. My thing is slashers. I love a good slasher. Yeah, it's like the bloodier the better. I don't know what this says about me. I do love like some good kind of like exorcism horror movies as well.
Oh, those are interesting
too. Those are very interesting. I mean, I kind of like all of it, but I would say slashers are my favorite. But I just watched Malignant. I don't know if anyone out there has watched the movie. It was insane.
Did you like it?
I absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved it. But it was like the craziest, truly, just absolutely bonkers. And I feel like it's such a polarizing movie. I can see why people hated it, but I loved it.
I was literally just watching a YouTuber talk about her review of the film because she really hated it. Because apparently... I guess Malignant is like very like it's very in your face, very out there. It's not as realistic as like I guess James Wan's like other films like the Conjuring series, Insidious. Yeah. It's more like I guess bright colors.
It's bonkers. He takes realism and throws it right out the window, and I love it. It was so good.
I think I might try to like watch that, but like my fingers will be like this the whole entire time.
Yeah, put it on your phone or something. So it's tiny and you can just have it far away from you and just, you know, it's a good way to do it.
No, I'll have like a blanket over my head. I'll listen to the sounds.
I love it.
Yeah, that's how I do horror films.
Yeah, I definitely look up like the very detailed synopsis.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so I can participate in the zeitgeist, but I never actually had to watch Midsummer.
Okay.
I know, but I was like, I'm scared.
You know what?
Midsummer, like I watched it like I think a couple months ago, and it's a little gory, but like it's not as bad as Hereditary. No. Like I've never seen Hereditary. I've only read the Wikipedia. I don't want to watch it. I think it's going to be super gory and scary. Because I know what happens.
Messed me up, and I love scary movies, and that one really got to me. It's like a slow burn, you know, just like dread. You're just like tense the whole time. Actually, like left the movie theater with like a migraine level headache because I was so like just tense, like my whole body the whole time. But I loved it. It's one of my favorite scary movies ever. I've watched it like 4 times since then. So.
Oh wow.
All right, we have another
question.
You're
tough.
So, Kat, can you tell us about the cover? Did you have ideas? It's so creepy and perfect for the book, says Brittany.
Oh yeah. I have like a pet peeve about covers. For some reason I don't like people's faces on the covers. Because I feel like I think I'm one of those people that like I have a certain image of characters in my head. And sometimes the cover just doesn't matched what I pictured. Like sometimes the cover will be like a brunette character, and then you're reading the book and it's like, oh, the main character is blonde. So like it never matches up. But I wanted something that portrayed how dark the book was going to be and a little bit cinematic. So there is a cabin in the woods in the book. It's not much of a spoiler if it's on the cover. And I just really liked like a very girly font, just because the book's called Nice Girls and it's from a female's perspective. I just wanted something that looked very stereotypically girly. So like the bright neon pink, curly font.
Yeah.
This was just my idea that I pitched to the team, and I can't believe they actually like took the idea and they like rolled with it, and then they like, I really love like the little like font for my name. It reminds me of those like early Stephen King like 80s book covers font, like the very blocky ones. I loved it. I love the cover.
I'm so impressed that you had the concept for the cover yourself. That's amazing.
I just kind of pitched it. I didn't know that they would like actually take it and roll with it. I love it though. I'm not complaining. I love it.
I also think it's great that like this is it's like a girly neon font, but like it's very, to me, very specifically that Instagram font, like from Instagram.
Oh,
it totally is the glowing
neon, and so it's
wow.
I was like, when I read about what the book was about, I was like, oh, like it's the Instagram.
You're so right.
It's good one.
That's a good thing to catch.
Good job, William Morrow.
Yeah, thank you to Elsie, the designer.
It's a gorgeous cover. I'm so impressed. First of all, that you noticed that was the Instagram font. I should definitely know that. Did not know that. And also, Catherine.
Probably not exact, because that's probably not.
So close, though. Definitely.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've ever actually met any author who came up with the concept for their book cover themselves. So I'm super impressed.
Or
wow, I got it.
Concept, but then the publisher is like,
right,
well, that's not gonna
be
good.
Yeah, no, like I've heard not like horror stories from like authors, but more just like, yeah, they didn't go with the cover I wanted. This was more marketable. So I kind of like, I had low expectations coming in, but like they really listened.
It's amazing.
And I love it. Thank you.
Okay, let's see. So yeah, last chance for questions. I'm gonna ask a question if that's all right. So yeah, you sort of touched on a little bit of this already in sort of like our relationship to true crime and like sort of the vigilantism of like, so, and this is sort of a trope of this type of book. When it's a thriller that is not a detective solving the case, you have to like put in there, okay, this random person feels the need to solve this case, and like in some books there's very like obvious reasons why they throw themselves in there. But like I think that Mary is such an interesting character. Kind of mentioned that she puts herself in situations that don't always make a lot of sense. She is driven like, and there is this nice disconnect of like what the audience is seeing versus what Mary is seeing as like, I need to go do this. I won't spoil anything, but like she investigates in very interesting ways.
Yeah.
And so I was wondering if you were sort of combining that at all with like you're thinking about like the way people, particularly perhaps white women, center themselves in certain things of like why is Mary so adamant that she is the only one who can solve this?
Yeah, no, that's a really, really good question. I think for Mary, there's also this, I guess, like relationship with Olivia, their past history together, that kind of compels her to go digging around. And I don't even think she quite understands why she's drawn to it. I think there's a line later in the book where it just goes down to this simple desire to be liked. She gets the sense that like, yeah, she and Olivia were friends, but Olivia never really liked her. And I think on some very like basic, very subconscious level, this is like her attempt to like but by like saving her, it'll I don't know, validate her, I guess. And then there's this other idea of how Mary's purpose in life was to succeed, to go to an Ivy League, to go to Cornell, and in losing her schooling, she's just directionless. She doesn't really have anything to do at home besides working in this grocery store. And I think for her, it's almost this like quest for herself to prove to everyone and herself that like she has worth, she's smart, she can still do things, even though she's in over her head. And I think it's also a slight critique of like the white savior phenomenon. Like sometimes you hear about like people going to third world countries, starting charities, doing all these good things. But then at the same time, you're kind of wondering like, are you doing this because you genuinely want to help people in those countries, or are you doing it to make yourself feel better? And to boost up how you are compared to other people. So I don't know. There was just a lot of different things at play that I wanted to explore.
Yeah, and I think that all comes through, and that's why Mary's so interesting, because you can see all of this. So here's something from Drew. Congratulations on the book. I was wondering what books or authors inspire you to write.
Well, thank you for the question, Drew. I don't know. I get inspired by everything. Like I can literally read like a stupid meme list, and I'll be like, "Wow, that phrasing was super good. That was really well done." I think people have a way with words, and I'm always interested in seeing how other people phrase things. In terms of like writers, I don't know if I really love like the Bell Jar, but I think for me that was one of the most I don't know, like most emotional, personal things to read was the Bell Jar, and I had no idea that literature could like impact me in such a way. And I think in writing Nice Girls, I wrote more for impact. It's not like a fun like popcorn thriller. It's not super. I think it's partially satisfying, but it's not going to be like super like everything's tied up in a neat little bow. Everything's perfect. You're going to love all the characters. I'm more interested in writing about, I guess, the depths of people and like people at their worst. And I think I discovered that through Sylvia Plath.
All right. Well, I will just remind everyone watching that you can get a signed copy of Nice Girls from Majors and Quinn. Give us a call. I've put the phone number in the chat. It's 612-822-4611, and we are open until 10 p.m. And we will do one more question from Kelsey. What was the first story you crafted? You sound like you've been making stories since childhood.
Ooh, thank you for the question, Kelsey. Gonna be a little embarrassing, but I started writing as a kid in my parents' liquor store. It sounds sketchy, but it really wasn't. Sometimes I had no one to watch me at home, so then I would be sitting in like the back of the liquor store, and I would do my homework. I would read books, but then sometimes I would just get so bored that I would just take a notebook, and I started writing like my own crappy version of Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide. I wrote that in my notebook to entertain myself because I really wanted to watch the show, but I couldn't. And that's the beginning of everything.
That's amazing. All right. Well, thank you everyone for being here. Thank you for tuning in to watch this virtual event. Thank you to Abby for your wonderful questions.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. This has been great.
Yeah. Thank you so much for letting me be part of it. And Catherine, congratulations again.
Thank you so much, Abby.
Congratulations. It's a great book.
Wait, I have a question for Abby.
Ask away.
What is your favorite Fall Out Boy song?
My favorite follow-up boy.
Yeah,
Oh my,
I feel like
put me
this
on the
is
spot like that. Oh my God.
okay, well, you can make a list.
I'll make a
Top
list.
5.
I'll make a list for you.
Oh my gosh.
I'll make a top 5 just for you. I can't pick just one on the spot. I'm gonna regret my choice later
Oh,
because there's too many
gosh.
good ones.
Okay. I didn't mean for this to be such a. I was genuinely curious because you do playlists and I'm always like,
No.
yep, she has Fall Out Boy on there.
What's your favorite Fall Out Boy song?
So I am not as big a fan as people would hope for someone to be, but Grand Theft Autumn.
That's
It's such a good song, especially during the autumn.
That's a great one. You know, that's a really great choice. I'm gonna come up with a top 5 for you. I'll post it on Instagram later.
I love that. I can't wait to see it.
I love it.
All right. Well, okay. So go to Abby. What's your Instagram so people can
My
go?
Instagram is Crime by the Book, all one word.
All right. At Crime by the Book, go there to find the super special Fall Out Boy best
It's a
of.
definitive ranking of favorite Fall Out Boy songs.
100%. All right, thanks everyone, and for those of you who are not able to tune in tonight, if you have anyone who wasn't able to make it, this video is available on the Majors and Quinn YouTube channel. So anytime you want to tune in, you can do so. Thanks everyone, and have a great evening.
Yeah, bye guys. Thank you so
Bye.
much.